Welcome to Dial It In, a podcast where we talk with fascinating people about marketing, sales, process improvements, and tricks that they use to grow their businesses. Join me, Dave Meyer, and Trygve Olsen of BusyWeb as we bring you interviews on how the best in their fields are dialing it in for their organizations. Let's ring up another episode.
So did you finally see Wicked?
I did. It was super fun. And actually, I saw Wicked with our host today, or with our guest.
I'm the host. I did not go to Wicked.
You're the host. I didn't see it with you. I saw it with our guest today.
I had to go to opening weekend, which I wasn't super excited about because I wanted to actually see the singers sing and the movie, and I did not want to hear Joanne from Mendota Heights
singing along
one row back. So coming in a couple of weeks later, that was better for you?
It was a little easier, I think. I don't know if anyone was actually singing along, but it was all pretty early in the morning when we watched ours. So there was a lot of...
What do you mean?
Oh, we'll get all about it. But our guest today actually hosted us a client appreciation event.
Oh, fantastic.
It's one of the things that I wanted to talk to him
about. So we're gonna have a lot of fun talking to a very energetic fellow about client retention strategies and developing relationships through special events and all sorts of fun stuff. Before we do that, do we have a sponsor for today's show?
Sure do. Today's show is brought to you by Fractional Tactical. As a fractional CMO, your number one goal is to deliver success to each of your clients. With limited time and resources, you need marketing solutions that are data-proven, easy to execute, and repeatable. BusyWeb understands the unique challenges marketing executives face. That's why we offer customized solutions for our fractional CMO partners. You tell us the results you need, and we create the strategy and MarTech stack to get you there. You have the concrete plan, your clients get measurable results, and you look like a rock star. Everyone wins. Visit fractionaltactical.com to find your tactical marketing partner today. You do strategy, we get busy.
Awesome. Thank you, Dave.
Yes, thank you.
Our guest today is Andy Prasky. He's a veteran real estate leader and former co-host of the long-running Real Estate Radio Hour, which ran on CBS Radio here in the Twin Cities, on I think probably one of the largest CBS radio stations in the country, and averaged 56,000 daily listeners. He blended industry knowledge with practical people-centered advice for buyers, sellers, and agents alike. With decades of experience at RE/MAX Advantage Plus, he has built high-performing teams, guided countless families through major life decisions, and earned a reputation for honesty, humor, oh boy, you're in for a long hour, Dave, and an exceptional customer experience. Known for simplifying complex market dynamics and focusing on what truly matters, relationships, trust, and value, Andy brings a refreshing, grounded perspective to selling in any market. Whether discussing staging, negotiation, customer appreciation, or building community, Andy's approach is rooted in connection and service. He's passionate about helping people stand out, show up authentically, and create experiences that keep clients coming back. Thanks for joining us, Andy.
Wow, I can't believe that. I actually sound important. I'm just a hardworking guy that likes what he's doing, and he made me feel good there. Thank you for the nice intro.
Absolutely. So, as we're getting into this, tell us the story about how you why did you take Dave to see Wicked?
It's kind of weird. Friends do things for friends. And one of the things so that kind of ties into one of the retention kind of things that I do with some of my clients. And I met, Dave, how long ago did we meet?
Well, we're going
20 some years ago?
20, no, it was earlier than that. It was, 25 years ago.
Yeah. And so we actually, Dave has told me this story several times, but he said, Andy, he goes, I was driving around the neighborhood and he goes, it was really weird. And he goes, there's a guy sitting in a model home, so a newly built house for sale, neon open house. And he goes, who does that? He goes, I got to go meet this guy. So he comes in and here I'm standing. And I think we hit it off ever since then. And my gosh, we've done so many referrals back and forth over the years. And one of the things that, because Dave was a customer way back then and still is, we have events throughout the year that we strategically invite clients to. And then what happens is we have a lot of fun together. We continue to build the bonds. And so one of our events is a movie. It's local movie theater. As it gets colder here in the Twin Cities in the fall, we get into the holiday season. It's nice to bring people inside. You feed them. You give them something to drink. We've got coffee, the donuts, and then we have all the concessions. We give away a lot of prizes. And then we also have the ability to go with your family to a movie. We always encourage everybody to bring a friend because we found that the number one reason why people do not come to our events is because they feel they won't know anything. And so one of the best things to do at these events is offer people the ability to bring a friend. And then what's really cool about it is there's that natural authenticness of, Andy, hey, this is my friend. She's thinking about buying a house in a few years. And so I brought him, and it's funny, they feel obligated to sell. And I don't say anything other than it's great to see you. How's the family? And anyways, that's Dave and I go way back. And so that's how the two of us saw Wicked last weekend.
All right, so to be clear, there were hundreds of people there, right? It wasn't just you and Dave.
Yeah, how many people were there?
We had a little over 300, but I'll tell you what, the key was if Star Wars is of any kind. So the last couple of years, we would have well over 400 coming into this event to the point of where we had to limit the amount of theaters that we were filling. So you have so many people, and this theater is one of those really nice reclining seat, beautiful theaters. So we had 4 theaters full this year, and last year, the last Disney one, I think it was 6. And what a fun opportunity. You walk in and you're like, hey, everybody, thanks for coming. You feel like you're a local celebrity.
Yeah.
Wow.
And they really do it up. They have a hot air balloon basket that's shooting off flames when you walk into the theater. They've got coffee and donuts and popcorn and giveaways and a raffle. And it's that one of the years when we had, what was it? It was one of the Star Wars years. We had somebody dressed up as Darth Vader and they were doing pictures. Yeah. It was hilarious.
That's the idea, right? Get people in there and get them to slow down because it is early in the morning. It's hard to get a movie theater at prime time, of course. So we get people in there early. And then what's interesting is we want them to hang out as much as we can, right? So there's different areas that they can hang out, sign up for stuff. It's also a great way, you guys, which is the hardest thing ever, is to call somebody and say, hey, did you change your email? Did you change how can I market to you? So what we do instead is we have drawings. And so we have people coming in that are volunteering that information. So there's certain years where we'll say things like, hey, by the way, you referred somebody, so you guys qualified this year for 3 tickets instead of 2. And they're like, oh, thank you. We're rewarding good behavior in a fun way. And then they don't even... My point of all this is I wouldn't do this business or any business if I felt not. And I think that's, if there's anything to be said about business in today's world, is that even with all this crazy cool stuff that's out there, authenticness is probably, and likability is probably the number one asset you have as a business owner, and putting that together and adding value. And so what value can you give a family a fun experience? And some people have tight times right now, or the times are money's a little tighter for some folks. And so it is fun to have an event where they feel appreciated and they get to do something at no cost and they put a smile on their face. A lot of people tell us that it kicks off their holiday season. So
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, and you're no stranger to helpful and or innovative ideas to market your business. So I want to talk about a bunch of those. I want to talk about the radio hour because I thought that was fun.
Yeah.
But also, I mean, it's things as simple as you have a moving trailer that has your logo and you all over it, which I think is hilarious. And any customer can borrow it for free, right?
That is one of, again, adding value, right? Something as simple as, and the best thing to do is to say to your clients, like with that trailer concept, simple as it is, hey, do you have a church? Do you have Boy Scouts? Do you have whatever? Are you putting the kids back to college? Are you taking them out to Wisconsin? Are you heading out to South Dakota? And feel free to use it for that too. People absolutely adore that. And then, especially with church events or Boy Scouts, or I would say with the youth camps or whatever, and they bring all the stuff in, and then people are like, oh, they let us use a trailer for free. Just a good community, good Samaritan kind of a concept is what it really is.
Mm-hmm. And it doesn't hurt to have a billboard driving all over the entire Midwest.
I've had people call me saying, I saw your billboard rolling through North Dakota, out in Wisconsin. I've seen it in Iowa. I think the farthest it went was out to Nebraska and back.
You've never been shy about self-promotion. I think it's hilarious now that your trucks, because there's always the Prasky.com logo on your truck, but now it's black on black, I think, right?
I'm pretty cool, Dave. I don't know if you know that, but in my own head, I'm pretty cool. And so, I did it for legitimate like logo reasons, but funny enough, I try to listen to my clients. There was a time where I love having a new truck. That's one of my weaknesses, is having a nice truck. So as I pull up to people's houses and I had the beautiful logo rolling billboard, I'd have people say, hey, do you mind parking down the street? I don't know if I want all my neighbors to know I'm thinking about it. And so I had to go in incognito mode where, where people would say, hey, can you put your tailgate down when you're parked in the driveway? And I go, you know what? Yeah. Time out. Let's listen. Let's do something a little more stealthy.
That's brilliant. I had no idea.
Yeah, that was the reasoning behind all of that.
Why would you want your neighbors to know that you're thinking about moving?
That's a great question. And I think everybody moves for different reasons. You've got the obvious stuff, the growing family, the death, the divorce, the whatever. And I think that some people choose to keep their confidentiality a little closer to their chest. But I'm in a service business. So if they say promote it, I promote it. If they say keep it quiet, to give you a quick example. I work with a lot of estate planning attorneys. And so what ends up happening is where mom or dad or somebody will pass away or a spouse, and they will say, hey, we want to help this person get rid of their house. And they're not necessarily help. So there's times where I'll have a property that will come on the market. Before it hits the market, then I ask, do you want this to go to the open public? Do you want this actually on the MLS, the listing service where it syndicates everywhere? Or do you want us actually to bring in, you want a certain number you want to hit, and I'll bring in some investors locally and see if we can hit that number and keep it all off the books. Investors, by the way, love that, you guys, because then there's not a permanent record of what they paid or what they're, until months down the road, there's not. So it helps us sometimes with taxation as well. There's a lot of advantages and reasons why I think some people keep confidential versus the public.
So you talked about the MLS. I think that's one of the interesting things that I wanted to spend a little time talking about is because I don't think people understand that the MLS allows realtors to basically plug the same grouping of data into just about anywhere.
Right.
And so the old 30, 40 years ago, knowing who is available, knowing who wants to move, that kind of thing, that's still important. But to a large extent, everybody's inventory is the same and everybody's inventory is flat.
Yeah, and I think that even going back just a couple steps further upstream, just to really explain our industry, as real estate agents go, we've always been a self-regulated industry where we've got this ethics that we all commit to. And so there's the code of ethics that we follow. So there's little to no regulating. You have to have a license, you have to have whatever, but most states allow brokerages to function underneath that self-regulation, self-code of ethics, because they did it way back. It was like in the early 1900s is when they started establishing the Real Estate Association and the realtors. But here's what's interesting. It's been the Wild West, you guys. And for years where it was, you'd have a local brokerage, they'd have their own listings, they wouldn't share the information. They would not syndicate, they would not share. They would try to say, they charge a percentage to sell the house, and they would try to bring their own buyers in. It got to the point when I started in this business, you guys, this is no kidding. So the young viewers, there's a thing called a Rolodex, okay? And this Rolodex has all the information in the world in it, and it's a database, okay? That database we used to put listings up, and then they went to the point where we can't really read that because we're all so old. Let's get the book. So then we had a book of listings that we'd have in the front office. It wasn't until recent, I'm talking this has been within the last 30 years here, where we started sharing information. Nope. So people, it's public information, we should know everything. People would hire a real estate agent. There's no law saying that I have to share that information. There's no way, unless the customer wants it, right? So now I will do a series of questions with people, especially you get into all these, the world's largest lead generation tool for real estate agents is Zillow. And most people are so scared to say that because when you click the button, you're selling your soul. And it's whoever's the highest bidders who you're going to end up with showing you that house. No offense, but it's what it is.
Hold on. Let's back that up because
I'm back.
This is great. No,
I don't know that people really appreciate that. So explain what you're saying about Zillow.
Zillow is, if you translate the word Zillow into my world, it's lead generation. Zillow is 100% giving, and how their niche was they provided sold information that nobody else would provide before. And so people love that. So they go there for the sold, they go there. People browse Zillow by the millions, by the minute. It's unbelievable how many viewers and eyeballs they have. But the whole goal of Zillow is to sell that information. So when you click on what is showing, you become the bid. And now real estate agents bid, and there's a couple different ways they do it. Some of the biggest real estate teams that we have that are out there buy territories. I'm not kidding you guys. Some of these areas, like in the Twin Cities metro market, they pay up to $800 for that click. For one click. And so you wonder why these salespeople show up at these houses and they're so pushy. So it goes from being a free resource to, oh my gosh, these people are being so pushy with me because they paid so much money to get in front of me. And or Zillow takes up to 40% of the commission that the real estate agent makes.
Which is already not. So let's back this up from a customer standpoint. So let's say I put Dave's house on Zillow and say I'm interested in selling it.
Let's go back to an actual Trigviism. Let's say you want to sell your former high school.
I did that. That was a long time ago. And the rules were different. But yeah, so I'm interested in putting my house on the market and I'm looking for a realtor. So my information basically gets sold then to anybody, any realtor in an X mile radius who has a lead generation source.
Yes. And there's also things like, are you looking for a mortgage? There's lots of accessory businesses that they have that also make money, title, mortgage. And I'm not telling you anything that you probably can't dig into page 95 of the back page and find, but it's honestly, it's more of a concept of, like right now, there's a lot of, you can look it up yourself to see they're having some troubles where they're swaying people to go certain directions to help support the accessory businesses. And you know what? Companies have ebbs and flows. One thing about that Zillow concept is the consumer, I think, has always thought that's like the real estate association or the raw information, and it's for the good of the consumer. It is until that there's no money being, and then they make revenue off of selling data. It's another data capture point. Nothing wrong with it. And I'll say that they serve their value because a lot of people don't know a real estate. But the one thing that I would say about this is this. When you're shopping real estate agents, the first thing I would ask anybody is, did they refer you from any? Does anybody that you know actually have a real experience? It's not a fake review or not a 5-star, 10,000 people say I'm great. Because no, we all know how that. Okay, so there's a lot of bot likes and there's a lot of bot, but it comes back to you're trying to find an authentic, real person. The referral is the number one place that I start with. Number two, when I'm interviewing real estate, one thing I've always recommended to everybody is say, okay, whatever you want to pay for a real estate commission, let's just say 6% because that seems to be what everything. So you say for 6% realtor, what will you do for? And then do it.
Okay.
Because now the realtors are put into a position of where they're like, hey, I got to perform here. My job as a real estate agent is not only to represent you, your best interest, and get you the most money possible, but how do I get that? Display easily what and how we get you there. So as a promotional specialist, what do you do differently? Some people will say, I do this too. I use Zillow, or I'll have you as a premier property, like an ad running on Zillow so that you pop up when somebody looks in your neighborhood, your house pops up, because I know the eyeballs are. My job as a promotional specialist is to get those eyeballs, but I also know what I'm doing. So by being a premier agent on there, I also get the people that click my ads, I get those leads. So there's a whole different complexity to them. You probably have a whole different show on internet click funnels and all this other stuff that are out there that are just, I gotta be honest with you, everybody thinks they're free, but is it free? And why is there not a source where you can say, hey, this Andy Prasky guy, is he legit? Does he actually have real reviews? What is his real amount of volume? What is his real average sale? How many people did he really help in his career? And there's no real source. And that should have been Realtor.com. But the Real Estate Association back in the housing crisis was looking for cash, and they honestly sold that off. And it's owned by a big news corp or whatever it is now. So it's another lead source for other people. So, boy, I got off track. I talked.
I love it.
I don't know.
It wasn't this coffee, but it's fantastic.
I didn't even remember the track, but it's
25% ethanol. Yeah. That's great.
So I think one of the things that Dave and I have been realizing in the last year or so, Andy, is that the real genuine specificity of marketing and the intimacy of marketing is really where a lot of people are going to be successful, is communicating directly to the right person at the right time with the right message. What I've always found so fascinating about the real estate market is when you're staging a house, you have to do the complete opposite and completely depersonalize a house.
This time of the year, too, you're 100% where I have customers ask me, like, do I have to take on my holiday? And I'm one of those people that says, you know what, you be you. There are so many people that say, take down your family photos, take down the whatever. We don't want people buying your old house. We want them to visualize themselves in this new home. Can you do a combination of the above and be successful? I really think you can. I think there's a place for that. I think that there's being the authentic who you are, like I tell every real estate agent I work with, it's in this business on being who you are is very important because people can read through the fluff. And even as a seller, if you're really into the Santa Bears, I don't know if you guys remember those, my mom.
I do, yeah.
Oh my, yeah.
Yeah, remember Santa? They were dating the old Target or whatever you call them now, had all these Santa Bears. And my mom loves that. And my mom literally, think about this. She goes, what if I ever sold my house during the holiday season? What would I do? And I said, I'd leave up every Santa Bear. I would. That's okay. Everybody's on a different thing. I think setting yourself up for success is what we're really talking about is like, what is staging? Staging helps people visualize what they're buying. If you have a house that's very challenging, like for example, or even another product that people don't understand, what is this widget? If you're in the OEM business and you're selling some kind of a widget, putting it in the bigger picture of how it fits in helps people go, oh, that's a whatever pump or a whatever.
Sure.
Same thing is in real estate. So helping people visualize what is this room used for? What could it be used for? So like when we do video, people make fun of me all the time. They go, Andy, what's this room? And I'll say, is it a dining room? Is it an office? Is it a kid's play center? Is it a workout space for you? I go, helping people understand how they live can be adapted to this house helps them say, you know what? This is perfect. Let's do it. But if I have it staged as a dining room, people go, I don't want a formal dining room. But the next couple might. So that's where you run into, you want to be as broad. And that's what like staging helps with.
I just, when he started talking about a very challenging house, I really thought about going to get a beer so I could have you hold it.
Yep.
Because I think had probably one of the most challenging houses of all time.
Well, it was good. And the photos, we'll have to do a side episode on Trigbyisms, I think, because there's some good seasons.
Beyond that, so you take that house that's unique to stage or visualize what you do with the spaces. And so now with all this AI that we have, even a dummy like me can take a picture and go click, and I want Scandinavian furniture in this room. And what's fun, you guys and gals, is that I can take a house, for example, and visualize this online, where a lot of my properties, believe it or not, people right now that are moving don't seem to have that. They're not as interest rate sensitive. So they're like buying the other house first and then they're selling the house, or they're moving first. And so we're selling sometimes vacant homes. Probably half the houses I sell are already vacant. So we're using visual, like virtual staging. What's neat is that some of these houses that are built like in the 90s, everybody used that honey oak. Remember that in the Midwest? I don't know what everywhere else, but in the Midwest was honey oak. And so putting in like a Scandinavian style furniture also makes honey oak look really cool. And so now we're really selling the sizzle as these. And so some of the new tools are I'm excited about them.
Yeah, that's fun. And I think as we look at the ways that you can promote a house and the connections, I think there's differences between new construction versus existing. I think we originally met at the end of the housing crisis, and we have been through a lot. So it's just different tactics for different times. So like right now, give me the difference between a new construction build in Otsego or Blaine versus a existing in Plymouth.
Sure. And I relate a lot of times houses to like cars. And everybody wants a new fancy car. And so that's where the pricing sits right now. Is it's very similar to new versus an existing. There's always more value, at least currently, in existing homes, especially where somebody maybe has overinvested in an area, where we see pockets of opportunity where, man, today's money, that would be a $1.4 million house and they're selling it for $800 because that's the neighborhood they overbuilt in. Those kind of pockets are so fun to find for customers in that situation. But then there's when you compare new construction to existing. So let's say new construction, we spend $100,000 more. What we have to demonstrate to the consumer to get them to make that leap is the fact that you buy a house, you pay more. So let's say your payment's a little higher, right? Let's say it's another $500 a month for that brand new house. But the existing home, the furnace goes, you need a new roof. And I'll tell you, you've not dealt with insurance companies recently. They're asking what the ratings are on the shingles, what the classification of the shingles are. They don't just let you move into a house now. You have to put it through the sniff test. And so just for the insurance company, alone. So new construction hits all those checks. Everything's safer. Your insurance is more in line with what it should be for the value of that house because everything's brand new and under warranty. So the cost of ownership is less, even though the payment's higher, because an existing home requires those, unless you have a cool job where you get big chunks of cash, where you get bonuses or whatever. Well, the first goes out and it's $15,000. For a lot of people, that is a problem versus the new ones under warranty. So you get people spending a little. That's why new construction's still alive. I think. I don't know. Did I answer your question properly?
That makes perfect sense. Yeah. Sure. I know that from following you and just being connected on socials, you're doing a lot in TikTok right now. So tell me about what that strategy was and how's it panning out?
If it's still legal, I don't know if it's still legal in the US to do TikTok. All right.
Yeah.
So the smartest thing I ever did was hire some people to help me that are half my age. And they understand where the audiences are and the target audiences I'm looking for. And so there are first-time home buyer videos and like, I don't know how to describe the platforms without being insulting to one or the other, but let's just say that Facebook is the family reunion of if you actually put a paragraph below your house, people read it on Facebook versus Instagram. If it's not pretty, they don't even slow down. And then I did TikTok. You have to be a little funny or a little animated to get people to slow down to watch what you're doing there. We take the same content and package it differently for different platforms based on the target audience we're aiming for. I don't know. I find where I get a lot of views on TikTok. And what's funny is I think people really go to TikTok for the fun. They're looking for something funny. They're looking for something, but then they'll click on you because say, hey, attention, first-time home buyers. You got to know these 3 things or you're absolutely screwed when you're buying a new house. And then all of a sudden they click it. We all know that it's clickbait or kind of, but if you have fun with it, we're actually adding value. I always say, taking the heart of an educator right now, keep that authenticness to your click. Mm-hmm. So people click it, and then you give an authentic, good information, kind of like we used to do at CCO years ago. It was just a different format. People would listen to you talk, they'd call into the show, they'd ask a question, everybody else would listen to the question, the wallflower situation where everybody's listening and not really wanting to talk. But that's where we were back then, and it's still happening. We're getting message directly from people that are just like, hey, I know you offered a free first-time homebuyer packet. What do we have to do to get click? And I never put strings on. I've always been one where we've all been there. You click, and all of a sudden I want your phone number, I want your cell phone, I want this to get the seminar. But it gets to a point of where you start pulling that credibility away from yourself and losing their trust. And so I've always said, give them something fast and quick, free, and then they'll follow you. And then that's where you get the rewards down the road where you can ask for more information once they trust. Totally. I'm jumping all over. I apologize.
This is great. Wow, works perfect.
I think one of the interesting things that you've done over the years, Andy, is that real estate radio hour where you were freely giving out tips on how to sell your home, how to buy a new home. How did that affect your business? Could you measure that in any way?
You know, that's a great question because it was so coming out of the housing crisis. Okay, after we started, we were in the housing crisis, and you can just so it's out there. You can go down to a lot of the local radio stations and you can say, hey, I want to buy and we're going to talk about my widget or my service or my business. And the idea is you leverage with other business partners to help pay for that cost. Just like a podcast, you have a sponsor, you have whatever. And so there was ways to get that thing started. What was interesting was at that time, there were so many people that were calling in and asking questions of the home improvement show about real estate, that they did a home improvement show. And then they had us come in and we were just like professional guests when we first started. Mm-hmm. And that show got to the point of where it got so huge so fast because it was authentic, right? Think about this. Mm-hmm. That we were the number one revenue driving, non-paid to play shows on that station. For Saturday. Other than like when the Gophers would play and they would do the Gophers of the Twins, they obviously would pull people in that were normal listeners. But
when you had me on as a guest a few times on the show.
More than a few times.
Your marketing tips and things all the time. And I thought it was just hilarious. My parents, my grandparents, my aunts, uncles, neighbors that I hadn't heard from in forever. Right. You know, they were all like, ooh, I heard you on the CCO this morning. Yeah. Congratulations.
And I think, Dave, you bring up an interesting point.
So hold on, before we get into that, I think it's important that we clarify for the listeners around the country that in the Twin Cities, especially where we live, that particular radio station was and still is incredibly powerful. I think right now everybody is, AM radio, what do you get off my lawn, Grandpa? But the power to influence and the power to reach an audience, especially despite being AM radio, it was a really powerful thing. Andy, for you to say that you were one of the only non-pay-to-play shows, that's not an insignificant thing by any means.
Thank you. Those of us that understand that radio side of the business at the ferocious beast of trying to make money and survive at the radio station level, And then you get to the point of where when you get to an authentic place like we were with that channel. So those that don't know the Twin Cities, a lot of the farmers would listen in for crop reports. Back in the day, they'd listen for weather. They'd listen for what's happening with the Twins or whatever back in the day. Now you do have some of that older listener where it's up on you got the radio running on top of the refrigerator at mom and dad's house and just keeps playing in the background all day long. That doesn't. You'll be shocked, you guys, at how many people that heard mom and dad listen to it. And then when they hey, I got a question or what's going on with the weather, they tune in now too. And we'd have people calling in their 30s. And I'm like, I literally would want to say right on air, you guys listen to CCO? There's a bunch of old farts on it. It's not. It's people that want authentic talk. And anyway, thank you for, again, blowing up my balloon.
And just to level set a little bit more, if you ever listen to a Prairie Home Companion, a lot of the people that were characters on that show had day jobs working at WCCO.
Yeah. I tell you what, that was one of the coolest things about that experience, and aside Trad, was who we got to meet back in the day, the Boone and Ericksons of the world, and all that. We would sit around, and it was crazy. Some of the people we'd get to meet that would just wander through the station, from athletes to...
And you were hyper collaborative in that show, which I thought was super interesting, in that your co-host, Chris, was a competitor technically. Right? Yeah. So you guys are on opposite ends of the metro. Just having both of you talk, you had very different perspectives, different approaches, and it's just, okay, what do we want to say about that fence that's in the middle of your property? Should you tear it down or should you whatever? It's like, and you would have like real conversations.
It was the opportunities that would come from, so anybody that's ever thought about doing something, I say do it. You know, I mean, I was sitting there and on a Saturday and had the opportunity to sit down with Steve Forbes. And he was one of the on-air personalities that like, you got 3 questions to ask him that we can play on your show, go. And I'm sitting there, we had Walt he was the GE Capital, Comcast, and NBC all at one time. He had more employees than the federal government. And he sat down with us and had the 3 questions. And some of those opportunities that are generated from that, the PR opportunities, the pictures, the perception, I think is a key thing. He would take anything away from having a public format like this is it brings you authenticness, right? It brings you where I had doors that opened for me that I never thought would ever even be. And then I still have people to today. And I retired a couple of years ago from it because it's a lot. It was a commitment. I work a full-time job here as a business owner, running a real estate business. I have a real estate team. We do land development. We do all kinds of stuff. And then on the side, Saturdays, we would do the show. And it got after that many years of doing it, I got to the point of where I was like, okay, let's slow down a little bit. But I still have people coming up to me today saying, oh, we love the show. And I haven't been on it in a couple of years.
So I think one of the things that is also really impressive about you, Andy, is the concept of how you've built selling teams. Can you talk a little bit about how do you build the team of sellers?
So great thing for today's conversation with a lot of people that nobody will ever care about your business or yourself more than period. And you get to that point where you think you have to do everything yourself or you have to control. This was my life lesson that had to be learned the hard way, where I actually had a situation where I'm a big jet ski guy. So I was out doing my jet ski to stand up the old school 750 Kawasaki, try to do backflip, whatever, throw it back. And then I realized really fast that week I had 23 appointments that week and I couldn't go. I was laying on my, then, okay, what am I doing? How have I gone this far in my career and not figured out that I am not a sellable product? I'm a service. And if I can't service, I'm out. I'm done. So I sat there on my back, literally saying, how do I duplicate myself? So I only wanted a few people when I started. I wanted like-minded people that I could say, this is what I do, rip off and duplicate what I do the best you can, and let's get out there and become a team. And then I started generating more opportunities than I can handle myself. And so those opportunities would roll over to these people. But the key thing was, as I said, my brand was my service, or my brand was how I would over-service somebody or try to help them find that deal, that pocket rate we just talked about where there's that exceptional value. And I said, if you don't do that, don't do real estate, because real estate is a service-driven service. They only remember the last deal you did with them. And so that's how we got started. And then we got to the point of where, could we make this a profit center? Could we actually turn having a team, and everybody's, oh yeah, it's a big team, they make money. Not true. I've had agents that have come up to me and said, this was about the time I started my show and about the time we were starting the team. I had a guy come up to me and say, Andy, gross revenue, I made $2 million in real estate this year. I'm like, holy cats. I dream about having a year like that, right? That's the peak of the summit, right? That's the highest you can get. But he said, I spent $2.3 million to get there.
Yeah.
Think about that. You would buying leads. He was buying the not them, but buying the leads. You buying the business. You buying everything. You had to pay people this. There was no revenue there. So I always say, to me, gross revenue is different than commissions earned. And so everybody's business is different. So I literally go off of gross earned, but I look at profitability too. And so everything that I do, I look at it as, can I provide the service level the customer needs and feel good about it? And can we actually generate a profit off of it? Or I'll be honest with you, I'm the first one to pull the plug on it and say, I don't even remember. Yeah, that was the right answer, but
yeah, sales teams.
Right, teams. Yeah, and I also run P&L statements on every agent that I have on my team. I know to the day of the year how much money we've generated together, how much they've done themselves, and then as a profit center, which it sounds really weird, but I think of myself as being like, so let's say I'm a big company and I have all these franchisee locations. That's the way I look at my employee or my real estate agents that work for me, because they're not employees. They're actually like, I look like franchisees. I have to treat them well so they want to stay. But on the other hand, if they don't make me money, what's the point?
Right.
And so I get to the point of where I work with each one of them. Sometimes this is the first year in a lot of years where, as real estate has slowed down a little bit, our revenue channels have changed a little bit. And we had that big blowout with NAR a couple of years ago where people are saying, hey, how do the real estate agents get paid? And so there's a lot more questions where agents were struggling with the answers. And I said, if you're not authentic and quick and be able to answer a question with confidence, you're not going to get hired. People will do it on their own. There's a lot of people that try to do it on their own now. There's arguments to be had for the success of what they do or don't do. Some people are very good at it and some people struggle with it. But I've had agents where I've had to say, you know what? It's time. Let's help you find something that you're good at. And so this was the first time in a lot of years where I've actually had to take agents off the team. And that was going back to where we were talking about. You read the book with Walsh back in the day. He'd always take his bottom few percent and let them go. And a GE. And the idea there is that it was a same kind of a business practice here, but it was to the point of where you say, okay, so if you're rewarding the whole team, are you really rewarding anybody? Or does it just become business practice? If everybody goes out to lunch, it's not just the top producers, then it's just lunch. So it's like, it's a reward, you have to earn it. If it's a reward, so I do I'm very big into prizes. I'm very big into contest-based driven sales so that you do so many points and you go on a trip. We have a team trip every year. You're in point score, but you don't get to go if you don't earn the points. And it creates a little bit of a competitiveness, but that's what you want. You want people to compete. You want people to feel great about themselves so they do great things. Otherwise, why have them there? People want to be awesome. People want to think about it. Everybody wants to be wanted, even in business. And so if you're not doing something that makes your boss or your mentor or whatever you want to call yourself, say, wow, high five, you killed it. Way to go. Mm-hmm. You couldn't have did it any better. Or, wow, here's how you almost got there. Tweet this and you're there next month. Let's go. Then I feel good too. I have that heart of an educator where I love my people. And I need a high, literally, probably not as much as if you can paycheck, but almost as high, is when they actually are successful themselves. And you can see that light bulb go off in their head going, this is how I go. This is how I make it work. And a lot of that, you guys, is taking a mirror and having people sit there in front of the mirror. This is how I do my business plan. And you start with a mirror. I'm like, okay, look at yourself. And I want you guys to tell me all the business you did this year. Let's pick the easy stuff first. What were the easiest? Where did the business come from? How did you get it? How do we duplicate that next year? So now we got 30% of your business rolling over already into next year. Now, how do we grow that business? How do we do? And that's where.
And it's a people business. And so people have to be comfortable in forging connections, getting out networking, taking advantage of the relationships that they have through the preferred home team and your networking and all the things that you do.
Yeah.
Every one of your team was at the holiday movie, right?
Yeah.
And they were out shaking hands. They all had their name badges on and they were introducing, or they invited their families, right? And their clients.
Yep.
So It was all part of the team.
That's something that we do too as a fun way to tie it in together, where being part of a team. Okay, so why would somebody why would you give up a percentage of your earned commission to somebody else? Value comes from an event like where we put it all together, and then someone can take, like we had a videographer there recording, and then what we'll do is we'll package together a video. We put the front and the back with each agent saying, "Welcome to my client event." So it looks like it's all them. So they get all the thunder, they get all the hoopla, and man, does it go a long ways. And then we help them post that everywhere that they need to post that. So the idea there is that as being part of a team in today's world means a lot of things. And sometimes it's simply recognition. Sometimes it's actually showing them physical examples like we did with that event. Sometimes it's one of the things I did a couple of years ago, which I should do it again. We had mugs, right? So Dave knows I do a lot of these like Yeti style mugs that we give away. And I put everyone on my team, I bought them all 12 of these mugs, and I put their name and their phone numbers on there. And I said, your job is by the end of the week is to have appointments where you meet with people and give them one of your mugs. And I'm telling you what, that was the smartest thing they ever did. A lot of those people have forced them to make the calls to book the appointments, which they're scared to do or they're nervous to do or they feel uncomfortable. And I go, when you feel uncomfortable, right? You can feel uncomfortable being broke and not having enough money to buy your kids Christmas presents, or you can feel uncomfortable making calls and having the money that you can give to charity at the end because you made so much money doing good things and helping people. Pick your uncomfortable. I go, really? Think about this for a second, you guys. You pick your own uncomfortable. And it's like, I go, be uncomfortable doing the right things. Get these mugs out there, get them in people's hands. And I said, do a contest. Have people take them on vacations. Have people, my goodness, that was probably 4 years ago. I had people sending me mugs of mine when they're on a trip in Italy, or they were down in Mexico. We gave away $500 for the best photo. Of course, the one that won was a veteran that was active duty. He was in Iraq at the time. His whole platoon stood there with their machine guns, and he held up the mug. I should take that picture up for you. And I'm like, bro, you won hands down. Where do we send the jet? It was like, but anyway, there's lots of creative ways to get people to help you out without feeling that you're doing anything.
Love it. Love it. It's clear that real estate is a hyper-competitive market and field. And all the things that you do, I think the ability and willingness to try things, throw the spaghetti up against the wall, figure out what works, to build teams, and to really focus on value and education is probably one of the reasons that you're one of the most successful realtors and teams in the state. And
the only last thing I'd say to you, Dave, about that is like that, and I don't mean to jump over you giving accolades because that nobody else does in my world.
Yeah.
So
everybody loves accolades, right?
Yeah. I think the most important thing that anybody watching this can do for themselves is learn how to make, I call it you draw them all, and you have an outer circle, and I do 4 different tiers of clients. My inner circle, think of the inner circle of your clients are the ones that any event that you have, they show up in their bows and ties. They're happy to be there. They love you. They refer everybody to you. That's your inner circle. Okay. The next tier on might be the people that show up when it's convenient. And so the tiers are basically the value that they provide back to you. Now, if you have client events where you treat everybody the same, I don't know if that's right. I have certain client events where I'll say, we did this last year where we actually have a steakhouse. We took our top 10 customers out. We had the room up at the local steakhouse, and we literally had dinner, and they're like, why are we all here? And I go, you guys are just my VIPs. Do you know how many people I got referrals out of those people? It was unbelievable because they're like, you're adding value to them. I'm giving them the attention. I'm giving them value that's a couple $100 on a steak dinner, for an example. But the idea there is that they earned it, right? And people want to stay on that top 10%. It's competitive. Now, my outer circle might be the people that just see a video of mine on the internet or get invited to a generic client event. Next one in, I pay for their tickets. The next one in, you buy them the box suite, for an example. Think about how you can continually tier things for your events, and that helps people prioritize how they treat you as well. So treat the people that treat you well even better, and the business keep coming back to you, rewarding you for years and years to come is what I've experienced.
Love it. Agreed.
Well, normally we like to end the show with naked self-promotion, but I think David did for you there.
Oh, you know what, guys? Truly, I believe that in my heart of an educator, if I help anybody with anything, hey, that's all that matters to me. Because when I was looking for inspiration, I dug deep in a lot of different spaces, and there wasn't as much of this cool stuff that you guys are doing now. Thank you, by the way, for doing this, because providing this to information and great resources. You guys have a company that, if you haven't looked into these guys, fantastic, by the way. It is a situation where it wasn't available. And open source information sharing, what I always find crazy is how much I share and then people hear it, but did they implement it? Take something from today, implement it, and you'll thank me before or later.
Absolutely. Thanks, Andy. This has been super fun. So I do want to give you an opportunity. If you have, I think if you go to Prasky.com, that's probably the easiest way to find everything we do.
Yeah, you know what I would do is anybody that responds to the show, we can send out some of our link tree, which has copies of some of our fun videos we're doing. We do a lot of different video content. We try to have some fun with real estate. We try to share different ideas. If you ever, feel free. I don't know how they respond to the show, but if they want to respond to the show, and then I'll send out a link tree link or something for you. And
we have show notes.
See all of our stuff. If link tree even exists, you tech guys probably should tell me if that stuff is cool or not.
It's good. It's good.
Counseling me on how to be cooler, guys, because I don't know. Look at my shirt.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful shirt.
Beautiful.
We told her.
Beautiful holiday shirt.
It's my holiday shirt. I know how to work for it. I know how to dress for it. Dave, tell them about our flip. So Dave also thinks it's funny that I'm pretty authentic in the sense that I wear a lot of times shorts and flip-flops in the summer. And anyway, that's how we...
Shorts, flip-flops in the summer, and don't forget backpack, leaf blower, and shorts in the winter.
Yes.
That's not unreasonable. I have a leaf blower that can do 180 miles an hour. That's not weird. Yeah. Because you get a little dusting. You don't want to get out the snow blower. You just gotta deal with something a little smaller. Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you guys.
Thank you, Nicole. This has been another episode of Dial It In. He's Dave. I'm Trigby. We are produced by Nicole Fairclough and Andy Witowski. And with apologies to Tony Kornheiser, we are also going to try to do better the next time.